guy. And it's so surprising to me that the accusation is that Kenny is in the relationship for clout, because like if that's true, he hasn't been a very good clout chaser. Like, I'm sorry. When you think of people who are really enjoying their fame from Love Island USA season 6, you think of people like Kendall. Hello, and welcome to another episode of Morgan's Pop Talks, breaking down the latest in reality TV and pop culture. What's happening with Jana and Kenny, you guys? Like, I can't even pretend like I want to say anything for the top of the show rant, because if you are anything like me and you were refreshing your Instagram browser every 5 seconds on Tuesday night trying to figure out what in the world happened between Kenny Rodriguez and Janae Craig, I mean, it has absolutely filled my mind, my week. Like, we'll get to it. Trust me. That's the deep dive today. If I had to tell you anything for the top of the show rant before we get into this week's Pop 3, today, this is exciting. Today, by the time you listen to this, it will have already happened because I'm speaking into the future. David and I are going for our final walkthrough for our house. Yesterday, we signed all the paperwork. Could not tell you one single thing. I could have signed my life away. I could have signed my liver away. I could have signed away my first child. Couldn't tell you. Couldn't tell you what I signed yesterday, but I did. I signed my name about 8 million times. And all I know is that I had to do a wire transfer. That also crushed my soul a little bit. So, you know, some heavy hitters this week when it comes to stuff that's on the brain, on the heart. I'm going to need a weekend. I mean, listen, I love my husband, you guys. I know he's listening to me from across the door. Because what I was going to say is I'm upset because my husband is leaving for a work trip on Saturday. We get the keys to our house on Monday. And, you know, I'm going to be so excited. I'm just going to want to throw a bunch of stuff in boxes and head on over there. I can't do that myself. Like, yes, I am a strong, independent woman. I don't need no man, but I do need a man when it comes to taking down furniture. Okay, I'm just not going to pretend. I don't enjoy it. I end up messing things up. I would rather somebody else do it. So on one hand, I'm like, oh, I get some peace and quiet for like a week. But on the other hand, I hate peace and quiet because I watched too many murder mysteries. We watched Where's Amy Bradley this week. So now I'm like, people are going to be climbing through my windows. A lot of stuff going on. You guys, when I wear my hair in a slick back bun, there's no telling what's coming out of my mouth. And that's what's happening today. And before I say something that might potentially get me in trouble, let's get into it. Pop 3, biggest stories in reality TV and pop culture besides the Kenny and Janae breakup, because we're getting to that. Jax Taylor is stepping away from his bar. Okay, so this was announced over the weekend. As you know, there's been a whole lot of stuff going on with Jax Taylor. We had the Valley reunion, part 1 aired tonight, which is 3 parts. Why? Make reunions 2 parts again and then just be done with it. But we had the reunion. There's still all this fallout between him and Brittany. He's not coming back for season 3, which I'm going to touch base on that again at the end of this little segment here. But now he's like stepping away from his bar. Were you silent or were you silenced? Do you know what I mean? Because from everything that I have read, I don't think that this was like Jax Taylor's 100% business venture. I'm pretty sure he had partners. Think about it as like a Schwartz and Sandy's with a Greg, right? There's somebody behind there running the scene. So anyways, on July 26th, fans noticed that the Jax's sign was being taken down from the bar, which is like, oh, is it closing? What's happening here? So he addressed it on Instagram saying, I've made the decision to end my partnership with Jax's. It wasn't an easy decision, but it was the right one. Right now, my focus is on my sobriety and mental health. And staying connected to my bar is no longer in line with the priorities I've set for myself and the life I'm working towards. Okay. He also confirmed the news to TMZ, stating that it was a carefully considered and necessary step to prioritize Jax's sobriety and mental health. Okay. I have a hard time believing anything that Jax says, to be quite honest. And like, that's not for me not wanting to believe him, right? Because you guys know I'm the most naive person in the world. I want to believe everything everybody says at face value. But after watching part 1 of the Valley reunion and knowing that Jax is not returning for season 3 of the Valley, and hearing Jax talk about in this reunion how his anger really started to spiral after he was kicked out of Vanderpump Rules, I was like, that's an alarm bell. That's a very telling situation, because you can't tell me that in one point in your life, getting kicked off a show made you spiral into fits of rage, drug use, alcohol abuse, and then turn around and be like, but I'm okay with leaving the Valley. I personally don't see how those two things can exist at the same time. So that makes me think that it really wasn't Jax's decision, which again, we all kind of felt that anyways, because I don't think he would walk away from a second chance at being on TV, especially when he just admitted that it really tore him up the first time around. And I also don't think that Jax would walk away from a business venture that has his name in flashing lights. You know, when you think back again to what we heard him say at the Valley reunion, you know, when he got fired from Vanderpump Rules, he was wondering, what is he going to do for money? What is he going to do for all these things? So now you're telling me he's not going to be on the next season of the Valley. Now he's not in partnership with this bar anymore. He has to be having the same internal panics, questions, right? But I think instead of saying like, I got fired from all of these things, we know Jax is very prideful and probably wouldn't want to come out and say it in those terms. So I don't know. What is it? It's like anytime a male from the Vanderpump Rules universe puts their name slapped on a bar, you just know it's not going to end well, right? Like we had Schwartz and Sandy's, which just like I don't even know. Like, did anybody ever go to Schwartz and Sandy's? I would have if I would have been in LA, but it just didn't work out well. And then now you have Jax's, and especially when you have these business partners that are involved and like they don't want to take on all your negative press and baggage that you have accumulated over these years. It's like if you're a male on Vanderpump Rules and you want to go into the bar scene, don't let it be your name, because it's just not really like a steady business plan. Let's switch gears to Bachelor in Paradise. So we got this unexpected hard launch this week between Sam McKinney and Allie Joe Hinks. So they hard launched on Instagram. Both of them were on Bachelor in Paradise, but not at the same time this season. So they posted a couple photos together on July 29th. It says, sometimes you just got to do it yourself, be a force, and hashtag stay relentless. They're kissing in photos, smiling in others. She's got a hat on that says, keep the main thing the main thing. And like, that's how you know she's into him, right? Because I could never. But anyways, Bachelor Nation stars were replying in the comment section. Jesse Palmer said, it happened. Kathy Swartz wrote, if you want something done the right way, do it yourself. So kind of shocking. And I don't really have an opinion on them as a couple because, to be completely honest with you, they didn't get enough screen time for me to formulate an opinion one way or another. You know, like, I can't tell you that I think they would be a match made in heaven because I don't really know anything about Sam. I don't really know anything about Allie Joe, because when they were on Bachelor in Paradise, this is my gripe so far, because I'm loving Bachelor in Paradise for the first time in like forever. On Bachelor in Paradise, they don't allow the new contestants to stay an adequate amount of time. They're in there and they're out of there. It's like, feels like less than 24 hours. And I just feel like, you know, if Sam McKinney and Allie Joe would have been able to stay on the beach for like 2 or 3 days, their paths would have crossed and we could have watched their love story play out on the show. Like, are we all like, oh man, we didn't see it on the show? No, not really. But I do just feel like people that come down as like bombshells or whatever you want to call it, I know they don't want to rip off Love Island, or they do. I don't know. I just feel like they don't get an adequate chance to really like make their mark. You know what I mean? Susie was there in less than 24 hours, and now we see all of this. Is it fallout? Not yet. It will be between Jeremy and Bailey, right? Because he's all cuddled up to Bailey, and then behind Bailey's back, he's talking about how he would propose to Susie in a heartbeat. Really not loving the vibe from Jeremy and Brian. Can't get down the Brian rabbit hole at this time, but just know, not feeling the vibe from those two. But the fact that Susie was sent home so quickly, and all of these newbies really that don't get roses, it's like, give it a little bit of time to progress. Make the decision a little bit harder. But anyways, congratulations to Sam McKinney and Allie Jo Hinks. Let's move on to Love Island USA Season 7. Sierra Ortega did a 4-part tell-all on her TikTok this week while the apocalypse was happening with Janae and Kenny. So like I was like ping pong ball going back and forth between those two social media accounts. But, you know, the really interesting parts of Sierra's tell-all were A, how she got kicked out of the villa, like what went down. B, the fact that she's not being invited to the reunion. And C, the fact that she kind of feels erased by Nick and Alandria. So, you know, the reunion thing was kind of a blip on the radar. She said, at this time, I'm not going to be attending the reunion. I feel lighter knowing that my perspective, my thoughts, and my feelings and emotions are out there. So that makes more sense why she did this like 4-part, 30-minute series answering all the questions. And honestly, like I was advocating for Sierra to be at the reunion because I do feel like it's actually, I understand the reason for her not to go, because the network has to like have firm boundaries when it comes to those types of things. I just think as an audience member, it's a big hole in the story, and I like stories to be complete, especially at reunions. But what can you do? The network, I feel like their hands were kind of tied. But, you know, her going on her social media and doing this tell-all, it allows her words not to be twisted and manipulated and edited, which I feel like is probably a positive in her mind. On the flip side of the coin, the negative thing about it is that you don't get anybody's reaction to it. You don't get Nick's reaction, Alandria, anybody else who was friends with her in the villa. You don't know what they're thinking in real time, so she's not going to be there. She also talked about how when she got kicked out of the villa, she was not able to say goodbye to anybody. So literally she just disappeared, vanished, and kind of like what I said, you know, they came up to her. She thought it was just going to be a normal producer interview, but they said, you know, some posts have resurfaced that don't align with our guidelines and NBC's values, the network's values. So you got to go and you can't say goodbye to anybody. So that being said, that's like why I just still have a hard time with this whole love triangle, because there was no closure whatsoever, and it still just doesn't feel like we're going to get any closure. She said the experience did end negatively because of my own actions. That is something I'll have to deal with. And then about Nick and Alandria, she says, as days went on and I didn't hear from them, the more hurt I became. I feel like when I first came out and I could appreciate the friendship and relationships and the memories that we had all shared and find beauty in their situation, it was because I thought they could come out and, I don't know, I guess embrace me. She says, but as the days went on and it just kind of felt like I never existed, and the friendship Alandria and I shared never existed, and the relationship that Nick and I shared never existed, it hurts. She says being shut down with no closure, like I said, it's closure that I've had to provide for myself. It's a lot. I can't say that I disagree. I'm wondering where both Nick and Alandria's headspace is at. You know, how many times do I have to say? Surely they've had conversations behind the scenes on how to handle it. I'm not going to pretend like I am privy to what those conversations look like, but I think based on everything that has transpired, they've decided that it's best to let the situation go and have them move forward in their relationship and kind of leave it as it is. I have to constantly remind myself that the cast of Love Island is younger than me and maybe doesn't handle situations the same way I, a 32-year-old, would. And you know what always reminds me is that anytime I see like a story about Nick and Alandria pop up, the picture that accommodates it is like of a Snapchat. Like they are communicating with the world through Snapchat and not Instagram stories. And I'm like, maybe this is why season 7 was a hard watch for me. You know, like I'm not a Snapchat girl. That's not how I communicate. Put it on your Instagram story. I will be able to internalize it a little bit better. But I'm like, that really just reminds me of the age gap between me and some of these Love Islanders. Which brings us to this week's deep dive. Jana and Kenny's split. Where were you when you heard that Jana unfollowed Kenny Rodriguez? Not only Jana, where were you when you heard that Serena, Leah, Miguel, Kordell, David Dobrik unfollowed Kenny? I was laying outside on my mom's back porch, soaking up the sun, about to get into the pool and relax on the weekend when I see, oh, Jana took Kenny out of her Instagram bio. Oh, there's no pictures of him. Then you get on TikTok, and of course, everybody's talking about it. What is this happening? I thought for sure we were going to get a Justin Bieber moment. My Instagram was hacked. Nobody's Instagram is ever hacked. Can we put that to bed? Like it doesn't, it doesn't happen in my head. It just doesn't happen. Okay. Anyways, I was waiting for them to say, oh no, my Instagram got hacked. And when in all actuality, they got in a fight, then they made up and whatever. That's not what happened. It kind of kept snowballing throughout the day. And I was like, this is really odd because you went to Kenny's profile. There was all these Instagram stories of them at David Dobrik's birthday party the night before. You know, Kenny had Jana in his Instagram bio. You refresh the page again, poof, vanished, gone, never happened. You have to start thinking to yourself, did I just hallucinate that? Or was that really there? Nope, it was really there. And you know, when you watch the videos of them the night before, they were happy, they were smiling, they were dressed to the nines, and you wouldn't expect that anything had gone down between the two of them. So after this, and after all the unfollows, fans start to wonder what's going on here. And the initial narrative that was going around was that Kenny and Jana had a falling out at David Dobrik's birthday party. That Kenny had a side piece and she confronted Jana at the party, or maybe not confronted, just came to her and said all this information. And let me just tell you, you cannot believe everything that you read on the internet. This tweet from some random person that I think had like a Barbie doll as their profile picture tweeted this conspiracy theory about Kenny and Jana, and the internet ran wild with it. And not only that, it started to escalate to the fact that he had a baby, that he had a second life, and it's like, what is this? And none of that ended up being true. Okay. So like, I feel like I don't really need to tell you not to believe everything that you see on the internet, but like, don't believe everything that you see on the internet. How we got from this Barbie doll tweeting that Kenny's side piece confronted Jana at David Dobrik's birthday party, it sounds like a Mad Lib. Like, in what world does that actually happen? To then go on that he has this secret baby and a secret marriage and all these things. It was crazy, you guys. It was crazy and not true. Okay. So the person just posted it to go viral on social media, but like also that could be damaging to somebody's reputation, that something like that could be spread and be so false. Okay. So we're like, okay, well, I don't know. There was nothing concrete out at that time. So we were still kind of spiraling. Then we started to get the articles, TMZ, People Magazine. They did break up, but it was not cheating, right? They're not getting back together. Things are bad between the two of them. Jana was the one to officially end the relationship. And at this point, we're starting to notice that even more on the outskirts of the PPG are starting to unfollow. Rob, Kendall, Connor unfollowed Kenny and then followed Jana. And our minds were just going to the worst places because it was just debunked that it wasn't cheating. And in order for so many people to unfollow you, Ariana Madix unfollowed him were like something really bad happened that nobody wants to be associated with Kenny. And like, to be quite honest with you, there's only a handful of reasons why 10 plus people would unfollow someone after a breakup. And like, honestly, in my opinion, cheating isn't one of them. Like, I don't see like, yes, everyone's going to be mad, right? And the girls definitely would unfollow, but like some of Kenny's close friends, like Connor, I feel like they wouldn't be unfollowing him over that. And I'm just going to be completely unfiltered here because our minds were going to the worst, right? When they're like, it's not cheating, but it's so bad, it's toxic, it's terrible. Why are all these people unfollowing them? And I'm just going to be completely honest. A lot of people thought that it was DV related, which again is like crazy to put out there with absolutely no factual evidence, but people were curious. People were starting to wonder. Everything that we had heard was bad, 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 toxic, toxic, toxic. But again, very damaging to a reputation if not true. So everything leading up until this moment was pretty quiet. And then this week on Tuesday, all hell broke loose. Truly. So many black backgrounds and white text. I could not even handle it. I was starting to like, you know, when you stare at the spinning wheel of death for so long that you start seeing stars, you're dizzy, you can't, like, that's how I felt after reading what felt like 10 million black background white text posts about Kenny and Janae's breakup. First one came from Janae and it said this: "Hi, my loves. Thank you for all your support. It means the world to me. As you know, Kenny and I are no longer together. Please know that I have seen all the breakup theories and none have matched up to how terrible, disgusting, and disappointing it truly is. Discovering that someone you loved isn't who you thought they were and that the relationship you thought you were building hasn't been genuine since day one has been truly devastating." She says, "Thank you for respecting my privacy, and please know, as a child of God, I will always be okay." When I read that, having been chronically online, I thought, what could be worse than DV? Like, maybe one thing could be worse, and I don't think that I need to spell it out for you. I'm hoping that she didn't see those theories. I'm hoping that the only breakup theory she saw was the conspiracy theory about being at David Dobrik's party. And again, the other speculation was really just in the comment section, so maybe she was staying away from it. But like, as somebody who was reporting what was happening in real life, people were saying it. So Kenny then releases a statement and says, "The past few days have been incredibly difficult. I've been quietly sitting with a lot of emotions and doing my best to process everything privately. Breakups are never easy, especially in the public eye. Sometimes, despite how deeply you care for someone, you come to the hard truth that the relationship was not something that could last long term." And he said, you know, "I wish Janae the best, blah, blah, blah." She then responds immediately and says, "STFU, you manipulative liar. You not taking accountability and telling people the type of person you are really is insane to me. My first statement was me being nice. Do not piss me off," she said. So still, at this point, we're trying to put the pieces of the puzzle together. It was Leah who breadcrumbed us enough to let us know that the situation mostly was about clout, right? So she says, "Kenny, put a sock in it, ChatGPT, tell the truth for once." She says, "Racist, clout/money hungry, and a scammer since day one. Trying to make it seem like it's something it's not. Don't worry, Arne is blessed and highly favored." So, like, I don't want to say there was a sense of relief, but it just was able to put your mind off of the hamster wheel of what did he do, what did he do, what did he do, what did he do? Because she's giving us some pretty clear answers here. Racist, clout/money hungry, and a scammer since day one. Then when she goes into the comment section, she comments this on a video of Kenny and Miguel that says, "Delete my man off your page, you clout demon." So again, that clout thing keeps coming up, which to me feels like maybe one of the most prominent things. So then Liv gets on her Instagram and says, "You pathetic excuse Your pathetic excuse for a story is laughable. I can't even put into words how good of a person Nene is and how hard it is to watch her go through something like this. At Kenny Rodriguez, I hope this gives you the clout you always wanted, you loser. Then Serena in the comment section called Kenny a narcissist and a racist. Kaylor said Kenny is a poor excuse of a man. You lost the most beautiful, genuine soul. Shame on you. Then another one of Janae's friends, who is not a member of the PPG, posted this on her Instagram story. Her profile is now private, but this person posted 2 stories, and Janae did repost one of them. So they are friends. The other one that she did not repost says this: my advice for women in relationships: if you have access, go through your man's phone today. Search keywords like, I don't like black women. I thought I would get more money from this. I'm faking this relationship. Going on the show would be for clout. I can't wait to be done with this so I can bleep, bleep, bleep. She says, you'll thank me later. P.S. Never spare a man. Dog them out, baby girl, with the heart emoji. Wow. Wow. That's crazy. That is so nuts. Like, it's just... It's so hard to wrap your head around it, because looking back, even just thinking back to this season of Love Island USA season 6, like when you were to look at Kenny on that season, I feel like he would have been the last person that I would suspect would be there for the clout. I mean, there's a lot of other suspects around, right, that you could arguably say was there for the clout, but he was like always dressed like he was going to a sales job, you know, just seemed like this very down to earth, normal guy. And it's so surprising to me that the accusation is that Kenny is in the relationship for clout, because like, if that's true, he hasn't been a very good clout chaser. Like, I'm sorry. When you think of people who are really enjoying their fame from Love Island USA season 6, you think of people like Kendall. You know, like even in this last episode of Beyond the Villa, Kenny's sitting there talking about how he misses his job in sales, how this influencer life is kind of awkward for him. And like, I believed him, because in a lot of these scenes on the show, he looks uncomfortable. But now we're learning that he might look uncomfortable for a completely different reason that doesn't have anything to do with clout. So I don't know. And of course, people are looking at Beyond the Villa a little differently now, too, through a different lens, because after this Kenny and Janae drama has exploded, we're looking at Kenny moving into the same apartment building, but not Janae's apartment. Like, that's a red flag. We're looking at this little, what was supposed to be fun Q&A that they were doing together, and Kenny didn't know any of the answers about Janae, and we're looking at that a little bit differently. And, you know, I thought it was the edit. Maybe not. And I'm learning more and more these days that sometimes you can blame the edit. But sometimes it's not the edit, it's you. And so now I'm wondering if it was Kenny. If it was Kenny. If anything, I hate stories like this. I really do, because you fall in love with people like Kenny and Janae, and you want them to succeed. You want them to be together. But even if they don't end up together, you like them both as people. You know, you enjoyed following their love story and you want their happily ever after, until you find out that they're not who they portrayed themselves to be. And it's like, we don't even know these people, and I still feel like a little bamboozled, right? Still feel a little all over the place. But I think one thing you could take away looking at this from the outside looking in is that your girl gang is so important. I mean, the PPG, we always knew they were the real ones, and that like you could not have a better friend group if you're one of those girls than Leah, Serena, or Janae. And the fact that they will go to war for you, put themselves on the front line, and not be afraid what anybody has to say about it. You need girlfriends like the PPG. That's the lesson that I'm taking away. I feel like this will continue to unfold. I feel like we have not heard the last of this story. I will say that there's conspiracy theories out there that some people are like, This is just to boost ratings for Beyond the Villa because the show's not being as talked about as people thought it was. It's not as big as a hit. You know, people aren't like recapping every episode, or I don't know, maybe some people are. To me, quite honestly, I don't need it to be this like blockbuster drama juggernaut. You know, I just like seeing them. I just like having them back on my TV. Like, I think that they're just inherently entertaining, even though it's not like the most riveting reality TV I've ever seen. But I just, I have a really hard time believing that Kenny would want to drag his name through the mud this much to just get some ratings for Beyond the Villa. I can't imagine somebody wanting to do that. I can't imagine somebody being okay with being labeled racist, clout chaser, scammer just for some ratings. I personally don't see that. Well, I was going to say we'll see, but would we? I don't necessarily know. But I also will say, you know, I've seen the comments, I need Andy and a camera. I need Andy and a camera. Pick up the cameras, pick up the cameras. And I'm just also kind of like the Scandival effect has seeped into our brains so deeply, right? Where it's just an interesting little conundrum because I'm over the pick up the cameras. We saw it with Kyle and Mauricio. We saw it with Scandival. Like, are we going to see it with Beyond the Villa? Pick up the cameras. I think it has more to do with the fact that social media plays out a lot faster than these shows are able to come out. And how do you combat that? I mean, there are ways. I mean, obviously we all watch Love Island in real time, so maybe they need to pick up the pace a little bit when it comes to editing these different type of reality TV shows, but I don't know. Those are my thoughts. But sad. Aren't you sad? Ugh. Make her the Bachelorette. Make Janae Craig the Bachelorette. I don't care. Put her back on Love Island. I don't care. The world loves a redemption story. I mean, look at Ariana Madix. Look at Ariana Madix. Could Janae, I don't want Janae to host the show because I want Ariana to host the show, but like, can there be a world where Janae gets her own dating show and like Ariana Madix is her mentor and like Ariana is giving Janae the roses to hand out to her men? I don't know. But get the bag, Janae, while you can. For final thoughts, I do want to touch base a little bit about the other storylines that are going on right now on Beyond the Villa. First with Kaylor and Aaron. I did post this on my social media this week, and I had a lot of confirmation from you people, so don't kill me, but like I want Kaylor and Aaron to get back together. I do. Am I crazy for saying that? Although I will say, and again, I could be scammed. It's happening in real time. I could be getting scammed by Aaron. But I also feel like Aaron has grown up a little bit more than Kaylor actually has. When, if you were to ask me that question last summer, I would have had the completely opposite response. But I also think that Aaron is traumatized. I think you can look at Aaron, look at him on the season of Beyond the Villa and realize like he was put through it because of his own actions, right? But like he's talking about his mental health. He looks sad all the time, which makes me sad. He talks about how his mom went through it. You know, his brother is on the show talking about what it did to the family. And I haven't seen this personally, but I have seen some other people say that he said he just did the show for money. I wouldn't be surprised if that's the case because he really looks like he doesn't want to be there 99% of the time, except for his scenes with Kaylor. Aaron looks sad and like he doesn't want to be on Beyond the Villa until he's sitting across from Kaylor. And then he gets this little twinkle in his eye. They're smiling at each other. You know, I wouldn't say that they're flirting, but the chemistry between the two of them is still undeniable. And, you know, you're watching Kaylor chase around one of these Montana boys and you're like, girl, no, it's not it. And we do know that she's dating Torin, which that whole relationship, I don't know anything about it. I'm just waiting for it to be played out on the show because right now she's interested in this guy, Caleb, one of the Montana boys, and Torin is Caleb's manager. So we don't know how she stops talking to Caleb and starts dating Torin, but we know that she is happy with him. But I just can't help but to look at Kaylor and Aaron and think like, man, in their 30s, when Kaylor and Aaron are both in their 30s, what would their relationship look like? I think that they would be married, having kids, and living life. Live, laugh, love. Kayla and Aaron. Same with Leah and Miguel. I feel like they are the real deal. I've said this a lot. I've really had to eat my words when it came to last season of Love Island because I said, I don't see Leah and Miguel lasting that long. I blame the production. I blame the editing of the show because they just didn't get enough screen time. And honestly, I kind of feel like that's a pattern when it comes to who gets to the finale in Love Island, because when you think about it, Brian and Amaya got a lot of screen time. Amaya specifically, because they know that the world loved her. Nick and Alandria got a ton of screen time because they know the world was shipping them together. So I feel like Leah, and she said this, sometimes producers were pushing her in a different direction from Miguel. And Miguel said, yeah, they were saying the same things to me behind the scenes. So I kind of feel like they weren't really set up for success on Love Island season 6. And had we seen the Leah and Miguel that we see now on Love Island, would the outcome have been different? I don't know. I mean, I am obsessed with Serena and Kordell, so I can't sit here and tell you I would have voted for Miguel and Leah over Serena and Kordell because I did vote for Serena and Kordell to win. But I do think it maybe would have been a harder decision if we would have saw the entirety of their relationship. Instead, what we're getting now from these interviews is that producers really didn't want them to end up together. So I really do love seeing them together. They talk about marriage, so fingers crossed that happens. But whatever happens, I cannot, if one of them bamboozled me the way Kenny Rodriguez did, I would not be able to handle it. I would not. I also want to talk about Serena and Kordell. I wish we would see more of Serena and Kordell. I honestly feel like we see them the least in Beyond the Villa, and it doesn't really make sense because they were the winners after all, right? And I know that some of it probably has to come down to the logistics of Kordell not being a full-time cast member. We know he's really pursuing acting in scripted series, and based on where we are now in the season, he's getting ready to leave for 4 weeks, and he wouldn't, be able to film Beyond the Villa during that time. But I'm like, I want more. All they're talking about is the cat Milo. I want more. Don't you guys want more Serena and Kordell? And I miss Rob. That's my other opinion on Beyond the Villa. But like I said, people are like, oh, it's kind of a snooze fest. I don't mind it. I'm okay with a couple of snooze fests. When you have to watch The Valley every week, Beyond the Villa sometimes can be a little bit of a palate cleanser for me personally. All right, that's all I have for you today. Like I said, I feel like this Janae and Kenny story is going to keep on keeping on for quite some time. So, I'll keep you posted. But if you want more Bravo news, make sure you head over to the Patreon, patreon.com/Morgan's Pop Talks Bravo Friday. We get all into it. If you have not left a review, please do so. A little 5-star boop boop, a little love you like a sis, and check out Seriously. David and I talk all about our house hunt journey, signing the papers, how he's leaving while I have to be packing all of these boxes. If you want to laugh, the Seriously Show is the show for you. You can also listen to it where you're listening to this podcast, whether it's on YouTube or Spotify or on Apple. If not, I'll see you next week. And as always, love you like a sis.